Now, me personally, I can't help but be pleased at Venom's overall success. I thought the movie would do okay, but given the mixed to negative response, similarly to the Oscar-winning Suicide Squad, it's damn near impressive how the movie grossed well over $600 million. 700 now. Not only did it show that the voice of critics and Rotten Tomatoes is slowly but surely beginning to rot, but it showed that Sony is still able to pull off miracles with their films, at least financially. I thought at the very least, in spite of glaring flaws and a missed opportunity for a harder rating, that the movie itself was pretty okay. But more importantly, I do not believe that it's as horrible a film as the mass critics say it is. Tom Hardy brought the goods in a movie that Eddie Brock starred in has grossed an unprecedented amount of cash, despite all the negativity that came before and after the film release. Perhaps the biggest irony is that the film itself did all this without Spider-Man's inclusion, something many thought was impossible. It's no doubt that Sony has been hit or miss as a film studio, but I can't help but give credit where credit is due. Sony does indeed get the last laugh. Because while we all want to see Spider-Man and Venom butt heads, it says a lot that Sony did this without Disney and Kevin Feige's involvement. No one thought that Venom would succeed, and most are still wanting for Spider-Man and all his foes to swing over into the land of Disney, something that will require a lot of paperwork and a substantial buyout. Spider-Man is still first and foremost the property of Sony, film-wise. It's just that they are sharing the character with Feige and Disney, but this can be rescinded at any time. You have to wonder what Sony and Kevin have planned for Spider-Man beyond Far From Home, because even if Far From Home succeeds, Sony could still back out and bring Spider-Man back to the land of Sony. Even if Far From Home and Jake Gyllenhaal's Mysterio succeed, Sony could still back out and bring Spider-Man back from the land of not feeling good over into the land of Amy Pascal and Avi Arad. And given that Tom Hardy is signed for 2 more films, combined with the fact that it seems Cletus Cassidy is up next, Sony will no doubt be wanting Spider-Man to swing their way at some point. All that was seemingly impossible for Venom seemingly became possible despite the negativity surrounding it. Now don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that there aren't improvements to be made and that they shouldn't do certain things better next time, because they certainly could, but needless to say, this all ties into the title of this video. And what I mean by that is Sony is still very much the steering ship for its share of the Marvel characters that it has, and Venom proved that they can make a successful movie, even if there is room for them to improve. I'll admit that I'd much prefer to see Kraven the Hunter square off against Spider-Man in the MCU, but maybe he'll still do it over in the land of Sony. We still have Morbius, Kraven, and Silver Sable and Black Cat to look forward to, as well as the inevitable sequel to Venom. Given that Miles Morales will swing in animated form next month, though his uncle was seen just last year in Homecoming, it's puzzling though intriguing to see just what Sony has planned. If Venom can gross this much off of a biased response that was around while this film was in production, then just think about how much more a better written and more thorough sequel can do, especially in terms of finances. I don't suspect the critics will lighten up either way, because they've shown, especially as of late, they can't help but give a certain trilogy of superhero movies good ratings, even when the audience ratings say otherwise. No disrespect intended. And just to think what more could come after Venom. She-Venom and Carnage could become popular and potentially garner spin-offs of their own. Even if they bring Spider-Man back for a bit, they could go the route of Maximum Carnage and let that unfold on the big screen as well. Maybe some of that R-rated goodness that will likely start back up again with next year's Hellboy and Jamie Foxx's Spawn will inspire Sony to give us Carnage in R-rated fashion, just like the wildly successful Logan, Deadpool, and the Ultimate Edition of Dawn of Justice. Venom proved the one thing that everyone thought impossible, and I can't help but be pleased to let it be known. Sony doesn't necessarily need Disney or the MCU for Sony's Marvel Universe to succeed.